How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the heck is going on in the universe. And before we even go into this week and what's going on, just like to close out last week because that was insane with the full moon in Scorpio and Saturn, or Mercury leaving its square with Saturn. That was just a lot, and I'm really glad that that week's over. However, we're about to go into a whole, I don't want to say a whole new world, but a lot of shifts and changes after this week. But this week is really going to tee us up for what that's really going to look like, and kind of like what the summer of 2018 is going to look like, because there's a lot going on with Mars, there's a lot going on with Uranus and Mercury and all that kind of good stuff. So let's get into it. Monday, we got the moon in Aquarius. It is going to be squaring Jupiter and the sun, but it will be trining Venus. So again, this is going to have more of that Saturn theme of, you know, trying to find creative solutions, trying to connect ourselves to the right people at the right place at the right time. And it's going to be in the middle of the sun and Jupiter opposition, where the sun in Taurus is like, hey, you know, we got to find a new way to get real stable. We got to find a way to have some type of security, what are, like, you know, what are our resources? What are the tools that we really have? And while Jupiter's in Scorpio being like, hey, well, you know, we got to look at the reality of things. Maybe these tools that we have don't really work for what we want to do. It's kind of like, you know, if you need to screw in, you know, a screw into the wall or something like that, you're not going to use a saw. You're not going to use a jack or whatever. So keep that in mind with moon being in between it, where the moon in Aquarius is trying to find a creative solution to where we can have the resource, we have the stability and the foundation and the security that we need, while also being able to implement something a little bit different, something a little bit deeper, something that has more meaning to us with Jupiter and Scorpio. However, it is going to be trining Venus, so this is a great time to meet other people, go out, be social. And it's not necessarily about meeting people, but you never know what you're going to get when you meet somebody. You never know what information you're going to have, because everybody in this world knows something that you don't. And that's what I love about, I mean, I have a Venus in Gemini, so that's what I like about Venus and Gemini transit. It's kind of like you learn all these new things and you see all these new perspectives and ask all these new questions when you're around other people and you're really surrounding yourself in a very social environment. So that's just one way to look at it. However, the sun will sextile Neptune and Mercury will sextile Venus as well on Monday. And with the sun sextiling Neptune, I think that actually happens today on Sunday and then kind of goes into Monday. However, with that being said, you know, things are still looking a little bit weird. However, we can have some fun with it. You know, Pisces loves Taurus, Taurus loves Pisces. With the sun being in Taurus, let's have a more of a realistic perspective of how we're looking. You know, take a look in the, not necessarily like take a hard look in the mirror, but kind of like, hey, take a step back, look at your whole situation, look at how you're kind of reacting and responding, look at what essence, look at what your beingness really is during this Monday and then throughout the rest of the week. However, with it sextiling Neptune, you know, be creative, kind of look within, going like, you know, why am I resonating on this energy? Why am I reacting this way? Why am I responding this way? Why is my beingness this way? And, you know, do a little bit of soul searching. Don't get too crazy with it, but just kind of, you know, take some notices here and there. And with Mercury sextiling Venus too, as Mercury starts its conjunction with Uranus, that started on Sunday, I believe, or Saturday, something like that, and it gets closer and closer to Uranus, this is the time to really, I don't want to say take a hard look at the mirror like I just said, but really understand what you're thinking. What are you understanding? Where is your mindset fixated towards? Because as Mercury leaves its square to Saturn, it's no longer this pressurized, you know, ugliness. With it sextiling Venus, this is a great time to really look at things in a different perspective. Look at yourself through a different perspective. Do something that works a little bit, because as Mars enters shadow this week as well, and it's squaring Mercury, we're going to have a lot more realizations of what we can do and find creative ways to really go about a new type of mindset, a new type of thinking, a new way of understanding ourselves and how we communicate, how we speak, and how we think. So with that being said, oh, by the way, Mercury also squares Pluto on Monday too, which is kind of like a little twinge of like, ooh, it's kind of like when you watch a movie and they show a scene and at that moment you're like, that's not a big deal. But then like later on in the movie, you're like, oh, that was a big deal. Like that's Mercury square Pluto. Like it's going to be very subtle. It's going to be very, you know, unconscious type stuff, but really look at the shift in mindset or the way that you think or the way that you understand or maybe the way that you see yourself with Mercury square Pluto on Monday. On Tuesday, Venus squares Neptune exactly. I was just tweeting about Venus square Neptune. It's really funny. don't be so, freaked out if things are still confusing and weird. With Venus and Gemini, it's like, yeah, you're meeting people, you're understanding things. That's where a lot of our value is. This is what we're starting to, I guess, the energy we're starting to resonate on. But as it squares Neptune exactly, things aren't going to look the way that we want them to, and we're going to have to start dreaming bigger, dreaming clear. Dreams are really confusing things. They're very gray areas. Like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, wait, what happened in that dream? It was like so vivid when you're in the moment, but then when you start to think about it once you're awake, it's kind of hard to remember. So that's kind of like that Venus square Neptune aspect where it's like I'm having, all this communication, I'm understanding things, I'm socializing, but as it squares Neptune, things are still a little bit confusing. Things are still a little bit foggy, but this is just a great time to really question the things that are around you. Do some subconscious work, do some dream work, get in touch with your higher self. I love doing that, like meditate, stuff like that. So anyway, Sun opposes Jupiter exactly on Tuesday, which again, this is about really taking that step back, or taking in that, I shouldn't say that step back, it's really about taking that step into your place. Like Sun's in Taurus, what are you in control of? What are you fixated on? What do you need to have security? What are the tools and the resources that you have? And with it opposing Jupiter, don't be afraid to try something more innovative. Get out of your comfort zone. Step out of that, area of conformity and security and safety, and, take that leap forward. Don't be afraid to express yourself on that higher, more truthful level that Jupiter and Scorpio is really all about right now. So get out of your comfort zone on Tuesday, for sure. And with the moon sextiling Mercury and Uranus right before it goes into Pisces, this is a big time to really go like, what is a creative way I could look at this? What's a different perspective I can really view my emotions on? And don't get too lost into the abyss. That's what I like to call Aquarius and especially Pisces. Like, don't get lost into the abyss or the void. Take a creative look at things. Take a look around. Get a better perspective. Make sure you see all the areas that see. Make sure you can see all the way see things the way that you need to see them. Man, that was a horrible word vomit. Anyway, Wednesday, moon's in Pisces. Moon sextiles Saturn, and it conjuncts Neptune as well. This is when we start to get a little bit deeper. This is when things start to get a little bit more emotional. Things start to get a little bit more intuitive. Things start to get a little bit more psychic. And on this Wednesday, it's going to be a little bit confusing because also on Wednesday, Venus is going to quincunx Pluto and Jupiter, and that lasts like 3 days. Like, Wednesday is going to be kind of awkward, but Wednesday is also a really good time to tap into that creative imagination, tap into that, more of that higher self, more of that authentic self, because it is going to be trining Jupiter. It is going to be sextiling Saturn. This is a great time to do some personal work, to really, see some things very clearly. And especially when the moon's in Pisces and it's conjunct Neptune, it's really easy for things to be really foggy and really confusing and emotional, and it's easy for you to avoid and escape and all that kind of good stuff. But it's sextiling Saturn and it's trining Jupiter and Scorpio, you don't have to lie to yourself. You don't have to act like you're confused. You're not confused. You know exactly what it is that you need to do or what it is that you really want, but you just kind of have to take in that reality of it, and don't be afraid to take, assertive action towards doing the things that you know that you need to do or the things that you want to do. So that's really the moon and Pisces type theme. And on Thursday, moon is going to square Venus, sextile the sun at 20 degrees. So as the moon squares Venus, again, we're taking in new information. We're really valuing, who's around us, what our surroundings really are, and what kind of information that they're bringing to us. And as the moon squares it, it's kind of like, maybe not the news that you initially kind of wanted, or maybe it's not the picture that you painted for yourself, or maybe it's not in alignment with the story that you told yourself, but that's okay. The moon's in Pisces. It's okay to change. It's okay to drastically move this way or this way. However, just keep that in mind is on Thursday, when the moon squares Venus, like, things aren't maybe looking the way that you want them to, and that's okay. It's time to keep asking. It's time to keep questioning. It's time to start really looking for more and more answers. We're still learning through this whole process. So then on Friday, moon goes into Aries, conjuncts Chiron, squares Saturn, sextiles Mars, sun trines Pluto, and Mars enters shadow. And this is when it really all begins, because as Mars enters shadow while Mercury's squaring it, from here on out, and if you're on my Patreon, if you're one of my patrons, you can go out into my Patreon, and I did a whole May forecast of everything, so you can kind of learn a little bit more about what this whole Mars retrograde in shadow, or just this Mars in shadow period is really going to offer in May. However, once Mars enters shadow, it's kind of like, well, this is it. It's kind of like whatever we're doing now from here to like August, when Mars goes direct at 28 degrees Capricorn, we're doing things differently. We're finding a creative outlet. We have got to find different ways to get everything that we need together in order to do this big push that we really want to. And I talked all about that in that video, so watch that. However, Mars just entered shadow on Friday. Remember that day. Remember Friday. It is, what day is that? That's going to be the 11th. Remember that day, because from there to August, that's when it's all going to really be starting. And speaking of which, when the moon goes into Aries, conjuncts Chiron, squares Saturn, sextiles Mars, it is going to be like, you're going to feel a little emotionally flustered. It's going to be a little bit more sensitive. It is going to be a little bit more like aggressive in a sense, but that's really okay, just like everything else, because the sun is trining Pluto. We are opening up to change. Sun is trining Pluto, you know, how can we really transform the way that we be, our sense of beingness, our sense of self, our sense of light? It's time to really change that. And with the moon going into Aries and conjuncting Chiron, it may feel a little bit aggressive, and it is going to be squaring Saturn, so don't get too hard on yourself, but really apply yourself in the most creative way. And especially as Mars is in Capricorn still, the last degrees in shadow, and the moon's in Aries, this is a really good time to get serious about things, but don't be hard on yourself. Don't be afraid, I don't want to say don't be afraid to fail, but things are going to, in a sense, not necessarily work out in the way that you want them to, but this is a good time to keep trying again, keep trying again, keep trying again. Don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. We're still learning, and we have things to go through, and we have things to learn and realize and experience in order to get to where we need to go. So don't lose hope, keep having faith. With that being said, yeah, Mars enters shadow on Saturday, moon sextiles Venus, squares Mars, and Mercury conjuncts Uranus on Saturday, because Saturday and Sunday, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday are like the biggest days. With that being said, moon sextiling Venus and squaring Mars, it's going to be like, okay, now we can really take in this new information and really apply it to ourselves. However, the way to really go about it is still going to be confusing and frustrating. So with the moon being in Aries squaring Mars right there, it's not about taking immediate action on all this new understood information and getting all excited about it. Like, understand it, learn it, but I don't want to say be hesitant, but really look at where you're applying this. You know, make sure you get it right. Make sure you learn all these things in a correct way, and don't be afraid to, you know, try things differently, but don't get frustrated when they don't work out the first time. It's just about keep trying again, keep trying again, keep trying again. And Mercury's conjunct Uranus. And it's also going to be squaring Mars during this time, which is really important too, because once Mercury conjuncts Uranus, this is that mental breakthrough. This is like the last time Mercury is going to conjunct Uranus in Aries for another 84 years or something like that. So really utilize this Saturday. Mercury is going to be at its last degrees of Aries, conjuncting Uranus. This is that breakthrough moment. This is that time to really understand, hey, I've got things I've got to do, I've got to accomplish, and I've got to keep going for it either way, regardless of, you know, my failure. It's about trying again, never giving up, because this Mars retrograde is really going to test us and what we're really doing. And as it squares this Uranus conjunction to Mercury, it is going to be kind of like mentally stimulating, and you want to be able to get it all done, and you're going to want to, you know, think that you have it all figured out in order to really go for everything, but this is a learning process. And as Mercury conjuncts Uranus, really let yourself take in new ideas. Liberate whatever negative mindset that you have about things. Like if you're really frustrated with how things are looking, or if you're really like just mad about things, this is the great time to really let go of that, receive a new information, get ingenuitive, get creative about how to go about this. And then Sunday, moon enters Taurus right on top of Mercury. When it enters Taurus, Mars will be at its last degrees of Capricorn, and then after that, Uranus enters Taurus next week. So Taurus, 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 Taurus is the only thing I could say. And as the moon conjuncts Mercury and Uranus during that whole Mercury conjunct Uranus thing, like, it's going to be kind of emotional, overwhelming, but really use it to your advantage. That's the most I could really say. With that being said, Sunday, Mercury enters Taurus, moon enters Taurus, and that's when it's time to really set foundations and really set those intentions, because we are going to be coming up to the new moon, and it's not exact yet. It's going to be on the 15th when Uranus enters it. However, don't be afraid to set new, oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? Intentions. Where do we need to get grounded? Where do we need to get focused? What do we have? What are the resources and tools that we have to our advantage in order to really create what it is that we want to create? And as Mercury goes into Taurus, like, that's the time to get serious. That's the time to follow a type of path that really gives you the security in your mindset that you really need. And as the moon enters Taurus, it's going to feel very grounding. It's going to feel very special. And enjoy it while it lasts, because right after the moon enters Taurus, we got like 48 hours until Uranus goes into there. So this is going to be the last time that moon in Taurus is going to be kind of peaceful until like September, when Uranus goes back into Aries. So that's what I got for you guys this week. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing to all my videos. I love every single one of you. Follow me on Facebook at White Light Astrology. Follow me on Twitter at White Light Cam. And if you guys want to become patrons and help support me doing my videos and get more exclusive content, please feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/White Light Astrology. And I'll be seeing you guys next week.